Crowns are often imagined as symbols of honor, bravery, and rightful rule. But history tells a darker story. Many of the greatest empires were not built by noble wars or heroic sacrifices. They were built through lies whispered in the dark, betrayals carried out behind closed doors, and fear spread so deeply that resistance died before battles even began. These are the kings who didn't just conquer lands. They manipulated minds, broke trust, and ruled through terror. This is the story of kings who won empires with lies, betrayal, and fear. Power has never belonged only to the strongest sword. It has belonged to the sharpest mind and the coldest heart. Some rulers understood that armies were expensive, wars were risky, and loyalty was fragile. Deception, however, was cheap and devastatingly effective. By turning allies into enemies, brothers into rivals, and truth into a weapon, these kings reshaped history without always needing to fight fair battles. Their victories were not clean, but they were absolute. One of the earliest masters of deceit was Cyrus the Great of Persia. Remembered by some as a benevolent ruler, Cyrus also relied heavily on psychological manipulation. When he conquered Babylon, he did not storm the city in open slaughter. Instead, he spread rumors that he was chosen by the gods to liberate the people. He portrayed himself as a savior rather than an invader. Babylon's defenses collapsed from within, and its leaders surrendered without major resistance. Cyrus did not just take a city, he rewrote the narrative, turning conquest into acceptance. The empire grew not only by force, but by carefully crafted lies that made submission feel inevitable. In ancient China, betrayal was not an exception, it was strategy. King Zheng of Qin, who later became Qin Shi Huang, unified China by turning rival states against one another. He promised peace, alliances, and mutual benefit, only to break those promises the moment it suited him. States that trusted Qin were absorbed. Those that resisted were crushed. After victory, he ruled through fear so absolute that dissent vanished. Scholars who opposed him were executed. Books were burned. History itself was rewritten. His empire was born from betrayal and sustained by terror, proving that fear could unify a nation faster than loyalty ever could. Perhaps no ruler used lies and fear more effectively than Genghis Khan. While known for overwhelming violence, his greatest weapon was reputation. Genghis intentionally exaggerated his brutality. He allowed survivors to escape only so they could spread stories of total annihilation. Cities that resisted were destroyed completely. Cities that surrendered were spared. This created a terrifying choice: fight and die, or submit and live. Many chose submission before Mongol armies even arrived. Genghis conquered vast territories not just through combat, but by convincing his enemies that resistance was pointless. Fear did the work of armies. In medieval Europe, William the Conqueror secured his throne through betrayal long before his famous invasion. After claiming the English crown, William faced rebellion across the north. Instead of negotiation, he chose terror. Villages were burned, crops destroyed. Entire regions were deliberately starved. This campaign, known as the Harrying of the North, was not about winning battles, it was about breaking the spirit of a population. The message was clear: obedience meant survival, resistance meant extinction. England was unified not by loyalty, but by fear deeply carved into the land. In the Roman world, Octavian, later known as Augustus, was a master of political deception. He rose to power during the chaos following Julius Caesar's assassination. Publicly, Octavian claimed to defend the Roman Republic. Privately, he dismantled it piece by piece. He betrayed allies when they were no longer useful, including Mark Antony, once his partner in power. Through propaganda, Octavian painted Antony as a traitor corrupted by foreign influence. Romans were manipulated into supporting Octavian's rise without realizing they were surrendering their freedoms. By the time the truth became clear, it was too late. Augustus ruled an empire built on lies disguised as peace. In India, Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb demonstrated how betrayal within family could secure absolute power. During a succession crisis, Aurangzeb promised unity and cooperation to his brothers. In reality, he hunted them down one by one. Some were executed, others imprisoned. Even his father was locked away until death. Aurangzeb justified his actions with religious and moral language, masking ambition behind righteousness. He expanded the Mughal Empire to its greatest territorial extent, but ruled through fear, executions, and strict control. His empire stood strong, but the damage he inflicted from within planted the seeds of its collapse. In the Byzantine Empire, lies were as common as crowns. Emperor Basil II, known as the Bulgar Slayer, used terror as policy. After defeating Bulgarian forces, he blinded thousands of prisoners and sent them back to their ruler, leaving one man in every 100 with a single eye to guide the rest home. The message was unmistakable. When the Bulgarian king saw his blinded army, he reportedly collapsed and died shortly after. Basil did not need further wars. Fear completed the conquest. His empire expanded because his enemies understood that resistance would cost them everything. The Spanish conquest of the Americas was driven as much by deception as by steel. Hernán Cortés manipulated alliances between native groups, promising freedom from Aztec rule. Once the Aztecs were defeated, those same allies found themselves enslaved or discarded. Cortés used lies to divide, betrayal to conquer, and fear to rule. Entire civilizations collapsed not because they were weak, but because trust was weaponized against them. Empires were won by convincing enemies that cooperation would save them, until it didn't. In Japan, Tokugawa Ieyasu rose to power through patience, betrayal, and intimidation. During years of civil war, Tokugawa pretended loyalty while waiting for the perfect moment. At the Battle of Sekigahara, alliances collapsed mid-battle as generals switched sides. Tokugawa had secretly negotiated betrayals in advance, ensuring victory without overwhelming force. Afterward, he ruled Japan through strict control, hostages, and fear of punishment. Peace was achieved, but it was a peace enforced by absolute authority and constant surveillance. Even in ancient Egypt, succession was rarely peaceful. Pharaohs eliminated rivals, erased names from monuments, and rewrote history to legitimize their rule. By controlling memory itself, they controlled reality. A rival erased from records might as well have never existed. Empires were secured not only by armies, but by lies carved into stone for eternity. What unites all these rulers is not cruelty alone, but calculation. They understood that people fear uncertainty more than death. By manipulating truth, breaking trust, and punishing resistance brutally, they created systems where obedience felt like the only option. Lies shaped perception. Betrayal removed threats. Fear ensured silence. Yet these empires carried a hidden weakness. Trust, once destroyed, never truly returns. Many of these kingdoms collapsed rapidly after the death of their founders. Without fear, loyalty vanished. Without lies, the truth surfaced. Empires built on deception required constant control to survive, and the moment that control weakened, everything fell apart. History often celebrates conquest while ignoring its methods. But behind every empire won through lies, betrayal, and fear lies a trail of broken alliances, shattered families, and traumatized populations. These kings ruled vast lands but rarely ruled hearts. Their power was real but fragile, and when it ended violently. In the end, these rulers proved a grim truth of history. Empires can be won without honor, without loyalty, and without justice. Lies can conquer faster than armies. Betrayal can succeed where force fails. Fear can rule longer than love. But no empire built on these foundations lasts forever. The crown may shine, but beneath it, history remembers the blood, the whispers, and the terror that made it possible.